Patel now joins us from Claremont Graduate University, where he's a senior fellow at the Drucker School of Management. Ryan, thanks very much for joining us. A lot to go over. I want to get right to that white paper. How important do you think this is going to be, and the unreliable list? What do you make of that?
Well, this is the evolution of the trade war. We knew that we were going to get to this, and this white paper is actually very important in the overall scheme of things. To move forward, everything needs to be on the table. To understand, obviously, what China's trying to do, they're going to lay out their strategy so anybody can read it, not just the U.S., but the global citizens, the global countries. And I think that is the thinking that I think most of us are going to want to see. Where are they at in their rationale behind that? And as for what really gets me is going to be this, foreign entity list that they're talking about. Pretty much, in my opinion, is a response to what U.S. has done with Huawei. And so they've laid out kind of, I think, what they're going to do, the plan. If this continues to go down in this deep trade war, they are going to do X, Y, and Z, and this will affect countries and companies. I think they will be providing this warning, which then doesn't catch any maybe companies or citizens up surprised because they're going to be tied into this trade war. Again, I don't think that they want to go down that path, but they're going to have to show this in this plan so it doesn't come as a surprise, and that they have obviously some backing, obviously not from the Chinese citizens, but just overall from the global community.
Ryan, picking up on that, on Friday, former China ambassador to the U.S., Zhao Wenchang, said that perhaps the biggest hurdle facing the United States is whether the U.S. can accept the development and flourishing of a socialist Chinese country. I would like to get your take on that.
Well, that's very interesting. That rhetoric has obviously popped up over the last month. I think that rhetoric is kind of clouding what the actual deal point is. Listen, if they end up getting a deal that is good, a win-win economically, that rhetoric is actually to the side, truthfully. This rhetoric is coming in to try to create more tension in between both sides. I think if they can kind of focus on the actual economic deal and not focus on, who's going to be first, who's second,
right.
I think that will push to the side. I don't take that as a big carrot right now, but there's a lot of other problems in play.
Yeah, after the failure of the recent round of talks between the two largest economies on Earth, the Trump administration accused China of, quote, backtracking on promises. Is that a fair accusation? After all, critics point out it was the U.S. at that time that dramatically raised tariffs rates.
Well, to me, that's interesting. We were not in the room, so we don't really know what exactly has happened. But for the U.S. to say that, to how close they were, to me, they knew that they were going to put this deal in jeopardy, and also put the relationship, which we all thought, or at least perception-wise, over the last 3 months prior to that it was moving toward the direction. So whatever that piece was, and maybe it was around the IP regulation and those perspectives, that's come out. And I guess it's going to be tied into, I'm assuring you, in the white paper that when China releases, we'll talk about things of maybe their state regulations, their state things that they're not going to change, and maybe that will tie into maybe more information behind the scenes of why it went to the side.
Picking up on that sort of positive thing that was going on before the talks, in April, you wrote a column saying it was the right time to come to a trade agreement, saying the U.S. and China relations at that time had been better than they had for some time. What went wrong, and do you still stand by those comments?
Yeah, I mean, at that time, why I really felt really strongly why they could have gotten a deal done, there was no noise. When I mean no noise, meaning on both sides, there was no Twitters, no tweets, no back and forth. Everybody was positive. Everybody was on an equal playing ground. There wasn't anybody being maybe looked as the weaker. It was the perfect time for about a month and a half. People were moving the right direction, and I thought that was the golden period to strike it going into the summer. Getting a forecast for earnings seasons for the U.S. was great. Obviously, China was getting their legs back underneath them, and now look where we're at today. We are in this uncertainty again, where the market has had the worst month in a couple of years,
right,
in my understanding, and that there is no end in sight. And now we're sitting at a time where we don't think that a deal is going to be happening in 30 days. We're actually going to the opposite direction and saying, well, each country is putting each other in a position to see who's stronger and not on an equal laying plan to coming to a deal and not feel humiliated on both sides. That's not a good thing.
Ryan Patel, thanks very much. A lot of people eager to see that white paper come out later on today, our time.